Night shifts are different. Anyone who has worked one will tell you that. The world doesn't just get quieter, it feels unfinished. Like something important stepped out and forgot to come back. Shadows stretch longer than they should. Sounds echo where there shouldn't be walls. And your thoughts, they don't behave the same way they do in daylight. I learned that during my 3rd year, working night security. The job wasn't glamorous. 12-hour shifts, 6 nights a week. Sitting alone behind a desk and a half. Abandoned logistics complex, just outside town. During the day, trucks came and went. Forklifts beeped. Office lights buzzed. People complained about coffee. At night, none of that existed. From Hunfi Zodered PM to 60 Zoder AM. The entire complex belonged to me. And whatever else decided to show up. The building sat at the edge of an industrial zone, backed up against a stretch of undeveloped land, trees, brush, and a drainage canal that locals avoided even in daylight. The security office was a glass, walled box near the main gate. From my desk, I could see the parking lot, the road leading in, and part of the warehouse loading docks. There were cameras, of course. Dozens of them. Black and white feeds on an aging monitor that hummed constantly. I learned the layout by heart. Camera 1 was the front gate. Camera 4 the west fence. Camera 9 the loading dock. Nothing ever happened. At least, that's what they told me during training. The first few weeks were boring enough to make you feel like time had slowed down. I read books, drank bad coffee, walked perimeter checks every hour, signed logs no one would ever read. Then came the footsteps. It started subtle. Around 1:40 a.m. Always around that time, I'd hear movement outside the office. Slow footsteps on concrete. Not hurried. Not casual. The first night, I assumed it was my imagination. The second night, I checked the cameras. Nothing. Camera 3, the lot outside my office, empty. No people. No animals. Still, the footsteps continued. 1 step pause. Another step, like someone walking with purpose. But no destination. I opened the office door and stepped outside. The sound stopped instantly. The air felt wrong. Too still. No wind, no insects. Just the low electrical hum from distant transformers. I stood there, flashlight in hand, scanning the lot. Nothing. When I went back inside, the footsteps resumed. That's when I made my first mistake. I laughed. Out loud. Nervous. Mocking laughter. The kind you use to convince yourself you're not scared. I muttered, pipes, expansion noises. I didn't believe it, but I wanted to. The footsteps returned every night after that, always at 1:40 a.m., always circling the office. Never visible on camera. After a week, I mentioned it to Carl, the day shift supervisor. He frowned when I told him. "Don't open the door," he said. "That's it?" I asked. "You don't even want to check it out?" Carl stared at me for a long moment before replying. "Just don't open the door." That should have been my warning. Things escalated the night the radio crackled. Every guard had a handheld radio connected to a central frequency. Mine sat on the desk. It rarely made noise. At 20:03 a.m., it turned on by itself. Static hissed through the speaker. Then breathing. Not background noise. Not interference. Breathing. Slow. Wet, like someone holding the radio right up to their mouth. I froze. "Control," I said, keeping my voice steady. The breathing stopped. Then a voice whispered my name. Not my full name, just my first name, drawn out, slow, like it was tasting the sound. I dropped the radio. When I picked it up again, the channel was empty. No transmission logs. No activity. The cameras flickered at the same time. Every feed went black for exactly 3 seconds. When they came back, camera 9, the loading dock showed something new. A figure, standing perfectly still at the edge of the dock lights. Tall, too tall, thin in a way that didn't look human, like its proportions were stretched. Its face was turned toward the camera, but the image was grainy, washed out. No facial features, just darkness where a face should be. I stared at the monitor, heart pounding. Then the figure lifted its head slightly and smiled, not with a mouth. The darkness itself curved upward, like a grin cut into shadow. I grabbed my flashlight and stood up. Every instinct screamed at me to stay inside. I ignored them. Outside, the air was colder than it should have been. My breath fogged, even though it was early fall. The loading dock lights buzzed loudly, flickering. The figure was gone. But something was written on the concrete, scratched deep into the surface as if carved with claws. INSID, TG-S. I didn't finish that shift. I locked the office door, called my supervisor, and waited until dawn. The next day, Carl didn't ask for details. He just nodded. "That one finally noticed you," he said. I quit a week later. The building still stands. And sometimes when I drive past it late at night, I see movement in the parking lot. STORWATWOE THE Hospital Fel ORT Octezen on THEE MAP. Hospitals never sleep. That's what people say. But there's a difference between being awake and being alive. I worked the night shift as a janitor at St. Mary's Regional Hospital, a massive, aging building with multiple wings, added over decades. The blueprints were a mess. Hallways didn't line up. Elevators stopped on floors that didn't exist in the directory. I worked alone, from midnight to 8:00 a.m. My job was to clean specific sections, mostly unused wings, storage areas, and administrative offices. The kind of places patients never saw. The first rule of night shift work in a hospital is simply ignore what doesn't make sense. Strange noises, old building, lights turning on, motion sensors, voices, TVs left running. That rule worked until I was assigned to floor 6B. The thing was, there was no 6B. At least, not officially. The elevator panel jumped from 6A to 7. No button for 6B. No listing on the maps posted by the stairs. But one night, my supervisor handed me a clipboard with my assignments. Add this, she said, at floor 6B, storage corridor. I laughed. That floor doesn't exist. She didn't. Yes, it does, she replied. You've just never needed it before. She walked away before I could argue. I found the floor by accident. At 20:17 a.m., the service elevator stopped between floors. The lights flickered. The doors opened. I wasn't on 60A. The hallway beyond was longer than it should have been. Dimly lit. Walls painted an older shade of green, the kind hospitals used decades ago. Metallic. A sign on the wall read, 6B, Restri, STT'd, ACCESS. I stepped out. The elevator doors closed behind me. The corridor stretched far into the distance, lined with doors. Each door had a small observation window, the kind used for patient rooms. But these rooms weren't patient rooms. Inside them were hospital beds, all occupied. I moved slowly, pushing my cart. The assignment said, storage. But there was nothing stored here. Just people lying still under thin sheets. Their chests didn't rise. I tried the elevator button. Nothing. The radio on my belt crackled. Avoiding staff, a voice said, "Please proceed to the end of the hall." I didn't respond. As I walked, I noticed something wrong with the people in the beds. They all had the same face. Not identical, but close enough to make my stomach turn. My face. Younger. Injured. Sick. Versions of me at different points in my life. At the end of the hallway was a single door marqueed. and IGHTADMISIONS. Inside was a desk and a man in hospital scrubs. He looked up and smiled. "You're late," he said. "To leave?" I replied. He nodded. "Everyone says that." He slid a clipboard across the desk. My name was on it. Next to it was a time. 30 Hoders AM. "That's check in," he said. "You've been working here longer than you think." The lights went out. When they came back on, I was in the elevator. The doors opened to 6A. The floor was normal again. I quit the next morning. Later, I searched hospital records. There was no floor 6B. But there was a section marked decommissioned. Reason: unexplainable staff disappearances. Sometimes, when I pass a hospital late at night, I wonder if there's a version of me still lying in one of those beds, waiting for the next shift.